Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now, before I get into the content of this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video. Consider subscribing to my channel, and if you don't like the content, please leave a dislike and a comment to say where the content has gone wrong. Okay, today's build is going to be the Augoror support ship. It is a cruiser class support ship once again. Now, previously in the past, I have mentioned that there were support ships in destroyers, but since T7 opened, the support ships in T7 have become available. And I have been looking through fittings and looking for better fittings than the fittings I already discussed previously, but so far I haven't found anything that has added up. And since I haven't found anything that adds up, I still don't even know where I'm going to go if I do build one. But I am thinking of building an Osprey. The reason is I feel more comfortable with the shield build, but these builds on armor tanks are worth way more. They way more expensive, way better. When you run an armor support, you always run it next to a shield support, because armor support is very, very expensive in terms of what it can do for you. The fact that it can repair another person's ship makes it worth value in the game. It actually provides you a free service since it can repair your ship or repair another ship. So, for example, a battle cruiser, who, if I'm correct, can sustain up to 1,000,000 damage on its armor, 1,000,000 worth of damage repaired by another vessel instead of you having to have to dock. That's 1,000,000 ISK saved. So that's why these are more valuable in terms of their actual function. Now, getting into its stats before we even get off topic. 200% remote armor repair optimal range. Now, the 200% is being added to that 7.5 range. So you add in 200% range, and there you go. You have a nice range. You either at the 14 kilometer or the 21 kilometer. I'm not sure on how these ranges are added onto the weapon. I haven't tested it myself, and I am just doing it theoretical. Okay, the next one, group armor repair effective range 100%. Okay, it's definitely being added plus 200%. So just over 20 kilometers. It's a good range on the armor repair. The group repair effective range, that's just near 15 kilometers. Group capacitor transfer 100% effective range. That's also just near the 15-kilometer mark. Now, when it comes to any other ship that you were running, even if you were running the second highest from the regular, the highest from the regular cruisers on power with any of these support fittings, you weren't anywhere near the power that these ships have, and you weren't anywhere near as effective as these ships are, because they give you a bonus on effective range, and they give you a bonus on how much of transfer or how much of repair it actually does. Now, that's overall because of the build of the ship, and that makes these ships extremely, extremely well suited to support. Now, if anybody is going to argue with this, I am going to straight up say you don't have 4,000 capacitor on your ship, because there isn't a ship that I've seen besides the support that runs 4,000 capacitor. And if you're talking about T8, we're not yet there. As you can see, it's standard slots, one drone, four high slots, two mid, four low, three weapon engineering, and three weapon rigs and three mechanical rigs. Now, going on with it, let's go with the advanced armor repair bonus. It minuses 5% of the activation time, so quicker repairs. You can't get this on any other ships besides these ships. As I said, major bonuses that help only with those particular things. Remote armor repair capacitor need minus 10%. Now, that's a reduction in how much of energy it uses, and it's going to work faster, so more repairing at a lower cost in energy. Bigger save on any other ship. You can't even run this on the Osprey because it won't match up. 50% capacitor transmitter optimal range. Okay, so that's if you're running that mid slot transmitter. For the capacitor, you're getting 50% range, and that just leaves you somewhere near the 11-kilometer mark. It's not that much of a range, and it is going to help you out plus 20% capacitor transmitter transmission effect. So it's going to add even more effect to it, and it's going to get you a little bit further. Now, the reason why I say you don't just run armor repair solo is, even though the armor is generally the tank, you're going to repair an armor tank with this vessel, repairing the shield and armor means that you cause the damage to mismatch. If something is really eating through that armor and you put up a shield, remember that's explosive, kinetic, and thermal damage being worn off on the start. EM damage is going straight through. And when it comes to your armor, EM damage isn't doing the most damage to it, explosive is. And if you can negate most of the explosive damage, you can repair that armor a little bit faster. And if you have full armor and your shield goes back up to 20-30%, you can repair the ship back up completely, and the entire fight will turn around on whoever has attacked these tanks. Okay, moving on. There was another thing which someone suggested to me, and as far as I know, running a cloaking device on anything besides a covert ops doesn't really work that well. And the fact that cloaking disables all weapons and it disables all other systems. So if you cloaked, you can't move and you can't fire and you don't have any other effectiveness. So cloaked ships are generally only good for single quick attacks, and they are good for spying, so they scouts. Okay, so continuing on, let's go. Overall defense just under, okay, it's just over 11,000. 275 meters per second. Not that it's bad, but it's quite fast as well, just like the other support vessels. Warp speed 3.5. 514 megawatt capacitor, power grid, sorry. Fantastic power grid compared to the others. A lot bigger usage on this capacitor. You can add in a little bit more into it. You might think of putting in a drone for PvE purposes, and for PvP purposes you might consider putting in, nah, I wouldn't do it. You might consider trying to boost up a little bit on your area field repairs and things like that there, but I'm not really seeing much of a use for it as I am explaining it, so no, not gonna happen. I'm gonna just strike it off. Okay, capacitor is 4,200 gigajoules and a 930 cubic meter storage space. So that is what you have on this ship. Now let's go look at the breakdown on the armor. If I am correct, these armor repairs are more armor tanks than shield tanks, which is going to throw a wrench in how I would set it up. But due to its speed, I'm not even going to bother with improving the shield on this. So let's see, I'm right. So since this one here is more of an armor tank, and as I said, you're going to always run this in conjunction with shield repair. If you're going to run this without the shield repair, you're really losing the effectiveness, and you're going to be running a group shield repair on this vessel to give it that effective range around it. It works better. Let me just double check this here. No, it doesn't have effectiveness on group armor repair. So I have no idea what to put onto it in that mid slot. It looks like it's just going to be 2 capacitor mid slots. Here's something else which you can go wrong with. Okay, so let's look at the ship coming up from rigs. Once more, this ship is going to need to be outfitted to the maximum of its defense. Now, unlike the previous defensive rigs, these are armor tanks with extreme speed, and considering our research, it's no use in focusing it any other way. But as I said, with the patch coming out, which I did make a mistake, it's the 13th that the redistribution comes out. I thought the redistribution comes out tomorrow because I am terrible with dates. So here's what I am going to do. I am going to just restructure this a little bit and go straight towards making it an armor tank. Now it's going to run the same 3 standard positions that the shield would have used, but in the armor versions. So number 1, it's going to do a faster activation time, minus 15% for its armor repair. It's going to reduce its capacitor need, armor repair bonus, And there it is. So the first three in this menu were what we needed. So that there was augmenter, armor pump, no, sorry, accelerator, nanopump 2, and augmenter. Now what that does for you is it makes your shield tanking on this vessel a little bit stronger. Not shield tanking, sorry, your armor tanking a little bit stronger. It means that this vessel can last a little bit longer in that whole role that it has. Now, as I said, you're always going to pair these with shield tanks, so hopefully the shield tank is providing enough shield to it to get it back up on its shield all the time, and it will sit in that same spot as that repair ship. Your repair ships shouldn't have that much of distance between them. If they drift more than 2 or 3 k's apart, it's fine, but they should stay really, really close. They should basically be in an orbit of about 10 k's between each other, and they should be on a direct approach towards the frontline vessels with at least 10 k's between the debuffs and the defensive. So basically, they're in that very close range. They could get hit by weapons if something goes wrong. That's how come they still need this repair and regen. And their number one purpose is to hold off fire from the main vessels. If they're taking fire, then things aren't going right. And remember, right behind them comes in your all-round attack players. They're generally playing with a little bit more range and a little bit more firepower overall compared to the frontline ships. And then falling back one more level is your glass cannon ships. Now, your glass cannon ships play the extreme long range attack, and they will fire heavy fire. Now, what does that mean? For example, on a missile type vessel, you're going to use a missile launcher to get the range. You have to stay out of damaging range because it's a glass cannon, but your missiles are going to have a lot more damage. If you had something like a rapid missile launcher with the right amount of augmenting and the right amount of range being granted to you, you could get something near 45 or 50 Ks. Now, there is a lot of augmenting and a lot of um, piling on to get that extra range, at which range you're just going to be a few kilometers away from the attack player, who's generally going to be in that 40 to 45k mark. Once we have expert missiles and expert missile advanced research, that's the upgraded research. Once all of that is in, you're looking at about 50 kilometers. And with all of this put together, you could actually fire a rapid missile from about the same distance as a regular missile. And that's an okay build for the glass cannons. But glass cannons always need to have a little bit of a chance to run away, which is why it is always better for them to run with the longer range weapon. It may not seem the best, it may not be the most thought of idea, but that's where it goes in the fleet positioning. Now, I have explained the first three here. When it comes to the engineering rigs, number one, you just want to get speed on this vessel once more. Speed tanking is a very good maneuver to use against them. No, sorry, wrong one. Right. So speed tanking is amongst the best things to use with this ship. It's going to help you out a lot. And the next thing for you to think about is going to be your your power distribution on the system. Exactly the same as the others. You want 25%, you want the increased capacitor, and you want the increased regen. So capacitor multiplier and capacitor recharge time minus 15%. Now, the reason for those being in their particular slot is you're getting more capacitor. 20% more on 4,000 isn't something small. It's 800 extra capacitance. That gives you 5,000 capacitance on this vessel. And it starts to play a very important role in where we're going, to the low slots. Sorry. Okay, so you're going to run an armor repair on this vessel. And it's not going to be small, it's going to be medium. Now remember, you have to keep track of both power for the grid and the overall usage. So as you can see, 111 megawatts. It's a little bit more consuming than a shield repair, but it does help you out quite a bit. Now, armor hardener, this is a very useful piece on the ship. I don't really see much of a use for anything else here, but here we go. There you go, not that heavy on the usage. The armor repair is extremely expensive in comparison to the shield repair. So that is going to be one of your most expensive fittings on the ship, and it does have its role in terms of everything overall. Now, moving on, we have one more piece to put into the ship. We have two more pieces to put in the low slots. So next, we're going to put in the afterburner, and this afterburner is once more going to be the heavy unit which we've looked at before. As you can see, 83 megawatts. So when you add it all up, we're almost at 200 megawatts on this vessel. And we haven't yet even reached the major fittings in the next. Oh no, we haven't yet even finished this. And just to give it a little bit of a resistance, a little bit of a breathing room so that your armor doesn't get eaten by anybody who's ripping through armor, you just put on a C. No, not this one, sorry. A C type shield repair. Now, this is going to skyrocket the value of everything, and you are now sitting closer to 250 megawatts taken. That reduces the amount of power left on your system quite heavily. However, you could change this out. You could put something else in its place. Instead of doing this, you could just run a shield hardener. Now, that is a lot cheaper in terms of its power drain. It is an option, but you're going to have to choose one of the two. Either you're going to use a hardener or a regen, but the whole reason is you need to make sure that you can take that little bit extra damage. So we're going to move on to the mid slot. Now, as I said, this vessel only seems to favor one thing in mid slot: capacitor transfer. So the first thing you're going to put is a group capacitor transfer unit on this vessel. Now, the group unit isn't the best in terms of how much it transfers. It is very heavy on draining the system, so not a very good idea to keep it on for too long. But keeping it on the vessel is something you can do. You can help out the, say for example, if you're in combat and all of a sudden you're repairing armor and there's the two front lines, and not armor, you're repairing the shields to prevent the damage from reaching the armor. You can always sacrifice some of your capacitor to regen the capacitor of the support ship in the shields, and you could possibly regen the two in front of you. But I would suggest the direct repair over anything else. No, this is the wrong one. I would suggest a double direct repair over the group transfer on this particular vessel because of the lower capacitor. And you might be thinking it's massive. It is massive, but it's better to run double of this unit. Now, I'm not going to explain it very well, but here's my overall try at it. If you went with the other two being the 250 megawatts, the moment you put this in, you're at 350 megawatts. Now, if you did that, you're already right near the end of where you can go with attaching weapons. And the next lot of weapons are going to take at least 120 megawatts of space. You're at the edge of your capacitance. You need to think about what's coming next. Now, you could use this because of the lower capacitor drain, or you could use the group transfer. And let me just show you how heavy the group transfer is. The group transfer has a lower power requirement, but in place of that, it has a much lower energy transfer. You sacrifice 600 to gain 123. Okay, so I have shown the two. You're either going to double or you're going to go 1 and 1, in which case you'll be somewhere near 300 instead of 350. If you go 1 and 1, it is fine. It isn't really that important to keep the capacitor transfer. The primary role of the ship is to repair armor. So let's get to the front. Okay, and here we go. Armor repair booster. Now, I haven't checked up on the power requirement. I know what was going to go in, but let's double check the power requirement. 66 megawatts. So if you had this on the ship, you can only carry two, regardless of whichever way you were going to stack them. Two, and you are going to cut off with power, because that is the total grid on the ship. That's already 320 added on. You couldn't even attach the difference in two different shield repair units. Even if you did do two group transmitters, it's not going to work. And if you were thinking of sacrificing your armor repair unit on the ship, you could go that route, but do you really want to risk it on this expensive vessel? As I said, this vessel is very valuable. Players will really protect it a lot. And you do need that little bit of an advantage. If you want to swap it up, you could possibly run shield repair on this vessel, but it's still not going to give you enough to run the full augmentation, because four of these are going to run you at just near 260 megawatts. That will mean that you'd have to fit all of your low slots into 200 megawatts of consumption. And saying that, I can already see the problem with it. You have to remove the armor repair if you want to keep it at that low. So you'd run shield repair, shield hardener, armor hardener, and you will gain that power that you needed to run it all. But you won't be able to use a transmitter for your a remote transmitter for your capacitor. You'd have to run the group transmitter, and that's just to get that full armor repair unit. As I said, it's a hard calculation, it's a major expense. You have to think about it carefully. It is more heavy on power overall in terms of the system. It's really expensive. It's almost 1,000 gigajoules just to run this. So 1,000 gigajoules per activation almost, minus the 10% on its capacity. Oh wait, it's 20%. So 800 per activation, and you have a smaller capacitor on this vessel, you're going to run through very quickly. Making it tanky isn't going to help. You have to have something to repair its shield up or its armor up. Its shield is very small. You have to weigh all of your options before you continue forward. And you could just run repair units, but that's still going to be very heavy and sacrifice speed. But as I said, speed is very important. Speed, shield repair, shield hardener. You see, it's complicated to get the build done. As I said, this isn't perfected. This is just the basics, and whatever I wrote got thrown out the moment I realized I made a mistake on the capacitor repair, the capacitor transfer costing. So looking at the overall effect of the ship on the power grid, it doesn't have sufficient power for its purpose. And you might even consider putting on that power grid extender, but that's not even going to save you much. It's just going to cost you more in the long run. You're not going to be able to operate as long, and you're not going to be able to recharge as fast. So going back to the vessel, there is one more shield repair vessel. I'm just going to double check its power after this video. Let's just double check it again. Oh, 514. Now you still can't run double. You can't run. You'd have to run double group transmitter over the single transmitter and the group transmitter, and then you could run a full augmentation of the power units. Let me just double check there's something I'm missing. Is there a power grid reduction anywhere here? No. So no chance of power grid reduction. So you'd have to run double group transfer over remote transfer if you're going to sacrifice the mid slot for the power grid on the ship. The other ship that we discussed, as you saw, it had excess power. I might have made a mistake. There's always that possibility. But looking at it overall, you can see the reason why you want to run this vessel. It's going to help you save money in combat, and that helps you overall in the game. And if ever you're running in a fleet like this, these vessels play a major role in helping you out to defeat things like, let's see, what would they help you defeat? They'd help you defeat Dead Space 10. You'd definitely make it a lot easier to run a support ship in there, because they'd hide behind your tanks. and they'd be able to escape most of the fire with their speed. That's one of the places where you'd use them the best. Uh, PvP major usage can always help you ruin someone's day, especially someone running in an Omen or any laser class vessel. You'll ruin their day very quickly using the armor repair, because armor is more resistant to EM and majority of the damage comes in EM. They're going to feel the resistance and their lasers are going to be left more and more ineffective while they're draining their system super fast. Very good idea to run these ships in that position. There is one more, and it is one of the ships that I was also very, very interested in for a very long time, the Executor. Now, I'm not going to touch it right now. I will touch it in the next video, which will be tomorrow after maintenance. So there'll be the maintenance patch notes and discussion video, and then I will continue with the builds on these support vessels. And this is the last of the support vessels that I'm going to cover. There are two other types of support vessels. One other type of support vessel that I have seen. It's a target painter vessel, but I don't understand how it works at all. I don't even see a purpose for it yet. And once I've seen further into it, if I'm correct, it's meant for covert ops. Once I've seen further into this type of tech, I'll open out a discussion and complete it in a video. So thank you all for watching. Have a good day.